What's up, Overwatch? This is Nevermore, and this video is all about how to counter Bastion.
Very little front line damage right
So the
now.
gameplay that you're about to watch is from a few friends of mine and myself. Both times we ran up against a Bastion and failed to capture the first point, so hopefully you can find this information helpful, because we all know how frustrating it can be to be constantly mowed down by the ultimate cheese.
Do you want to run Brigade, Prince?
So this first match is on Gibraltar, as you can see. We're running Orisa, Hog, Tracer, Widow, Moira, and Lucio. And as you can see, they are about to run a turret comp, as they have Symmetra, who's about to throw some turrets down on the front door here. And obviously Bastion. So because of that, we're obviously going to choose to go out the left side, which as of late I've actually come to favor going out this side, because you can avoid getting mowed down coming out of the front door. You can either pop through the building and come out front, or just go entirely around the back.
Watch for boops, though. Do not stay close to that cliff.
I'll say push left.
Yeah, so you might have noticed in game I said watch for boops, and there's a good reason, because the Lucio is right here at the edge. Fortunately, I hooked him, but that's one of the obvious, dangers with coming around this side.
Yeah, I see him.
So yeah, things really they don't start off that bad. As you can see, I just got a hook off right there, and so we basically took out everybody but the Junkrat that's left up top, just spamming grenades. Yeah, I certainly favor Hog, going up against Bastion, because of the hook, and also because he has so much health and such awesome sustain. That being said, the only main disadvantage to playing Hog against Bastion is that if you shielded, you have to break it down first, and with only having 5 rounds in your clip, in order to break that shield by yourself, you have to leave yourself extremely vulnerable while reloading, or being low on ammo. So it's super dangerous.
Lucio down. Hell yeah, I sold his ass so easy.
So at this point, you can see that we've actually lost most of our team except for the Tracer and I. We probably should have pulled back to regroup. However, I was so focused on Bastion right here that I failed to notice, that we lost most of the people, and also the team that just flanked me. I think that's really common, when fighting Pharah and Bastion, is to get tunnel vision and get caught while looking up. And it's, for that reason, I think it's better to sometimes just avoid the Bastion as best you can and try to finish the team fight first, and then follow up after everybody else is dead, either forcing them to pull out, or having the numbers in the room, to take him out after you've dealt with all the other threats.
Grab Moira. Moira down.
Lucio's one. Got Lucio. Alright, we're good. They got no healers.
I have ult. I have ult. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. They got
Red fire coming.
Nice. So right here you can see we went high ground, which is probably smarter, but I probably would have been, the best route would have been to go around the right through the server room and come up to the high ground up at the top of the gate. That probably would have been the safest way to go. And it does help me to recognize that so much about fighting Bastion is about having the right positioning. And avoiding his field of fire, because it would have been really easy for me to get a hook off up there. And for most of the time, mostly I just chop that up to the lack of experience taking that route, because I don't, and map knowledge ultimately.
I'm dead.
It's unlucky, just jumping right down in the Junkrat trap.
Don't go in.
So yeah, a really common mistake is when going against these heroes is failing to regroup. People often get really frustrated and thereby tilted when going against these heroes. So it's almost like being a boxer and kind of trolling the person that you're fighting against, and trying to get them coming at you angry and reckless. And the fact of the matter is, people don't play well when they're tilted, because you get mad and you're going out for blood, and when you do that, you become reckless. You're not watching your flanks. and then you end up getting desperate, and people start yelling at each other. So it's good to stay patient and to take the time to really regroup and to take those longer but safer routes ultimately to get the right positioning on them.
Bastion's down. Bastion's down. Get on the point. Get on the point. Get on the point. No, one's there, dude. What the fuck was that?
So yeah, before the next match starts, I just want to talk a little bit about the heroes that are good against Bastion. So, most people know Genji with his deflects. It's also really hard while in turret form to kill a Genji that's right in your face and is just raining ninja stars down on you. I know Genji does have a pretty high skill cap, and you certainly have to practice him before you try it, but it's not a bad character to have in your back pocket. Probably the most simplistic choice would just be to go Arisa Bastion yourselves or even a double shield, because regardless of how much damage he spits out, if you have more shielding, you will win the fight. Especially in this instance when the Bastion wasn't even shielded. If he would have just popped up his shield in that server room, man, would have been beautiful. D.Va can fly up with the defense matrix and launch rockets. However, her most powerful attack is probably the D.Va bomb, and thereby, that might not make her the best choice. Because you have to rely on getting your ult up. If he has a shield up, a good Junkrat can blast him down really effectively. And if you can get the right angle, you can even fire on him without being seen, which is, it's called indirect fire. And you can safely take him out that way, or at least force him to move. Another solid choice is definitely Sombra for her ability to hack the Bastion out of turret form. That, and she can easily creep up on him using stealth now with the new updates to her character. And of course, EMP, which is such a huge game changer just in itself. Bastion is super weak to flankers, which accounts for Sombra's effectiveness as well as Tracer's. Tracer can blast him by blinking in or stick him with a mine, and then rewind, as you saw in the last match. A lot of people also pick Pharah, but I think that's kind of a misconception because to safely take him out, you need to be outside of his effective range. And with his healing abilities, that can make it pretty tough, particularly if he has a shield, because then you have to get the right angle, which makes it difficult for Hanzo and Widow as well, although they have range, so there might be some argument for that. Another way would be to use Mei if they have a shield, because you can use the Mei wall to lift him above it, and if you have a really coordinated team, it'll give you enough time to blast him down. You can also use the Mei wall to block his field of vision, so you can get around to the flank, which is like super great on the pirate ship. Alright, so this next match is on Nimbani, and here we opt to run a dive comp. I actually like this comp really well in Nimbani because the map offers quite a bit of verticality, although we aren't very rehearsed on dive in general, and you'll see that my Winston playing it in particular leaves a lot to be desired. Yeah, so as you can see, we're going to be running triple tank and support with Winston, D.Va, and Wrecking Ball, as well as Lucio, Moira, and Brigitte. So as you can see here, we're about to go around the far left side, which might be slightly safer than going up top, as if they're really set up there with a Rhine shield, it can be difficult to get through. So seeing Bastion on the back there, I way too aggressively decided to jump in, and although I took out the Mercy, it was probably a bad choice on my behalf. And I also decided to get back in the fight as quickly as possible, knowing or thinking my team was still at it in there. Again, it was a poor engagement choice on my behalf. I probably should have decided to switch off instantly and adapt, picking a better hero for the situation. But again, I charged in way too aggressively, which just goes to show how important patience is in fighting off these heroes. Yeah, Yeah, it's certainly better to get one solid regroup, as that's far better than 3 lousy pushes. It's also good to talk about contingency plans when you're in the waiting room. It's a solid idea to know beforehand who's going to switch into what when going up against, say Pharah or Bastion or whatever. I think most people will talk about who's going to go hit scan, but I don't think most teams will have a solid plan when it goes to fighting against Bastion. And when you're fighting against really good players, you want this stuff to come totally automatically, and because when you're in the heat of the battle, you tend to forget a lot of things because you're not thinking very rationally. Yeah. So our team coordination and hero choices here leave a lot to be desired. Some of us, including myself, waited too long to switch, which can be like cancer for any team. I know a lot of people wait to get their ults, which can ruin a game because if it's a particularly long life, the Bastion and Pharah are just going to rain down on your team, and in the meantime, you are charging the hell out of the enemy ults. Say, if Reaper is 60% of an ult, but the Pharah is just totally destroying your team. While that Reaper is waiting to get his ult, you're charging all of the enemy ults at the same time. And, if that Reaper, 60% may be a lot, and that can change a game, but ultimately I think it's better to just sacrifice that, unless you're really close, like say 80%, and, hopefully cancel out the enemy's ult charge there. So as you can see, we finally got a Sombra and decided to hack the Bastion. And in a moment, you'll see that we are just about to get the hack off and institute our final push. So yeah, the Moira and Sombra did take him out. Unfortunately, I failed to watch my corner here and was mowed down by the DPS. And we also failed to watch the Mercy, and she ended up rezzing him anyway. So yeah, this match was a particularly hard pill to swallow. Yeah. All right, so in lieu of everything that had just happened, on defense here, as you can see, we decided to kind of mimic their comp, and decided to go Bastion and Torb ourselves. In lieu of that, it's not a surprise that the enemy team decided to dive, as you'll see here in just a moment. And it's not surprising because they likely expected us to go Bastion ourselves, as they only needed to get a single tick. I'll also note that their comp is Diva, Winston, Genji, Tracer, and Lucio Mercy, which is probably a better dive comp than the one that we ran.
Oh yeah, the shotgun dude, close range.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that can one shot if you perfectly aim at the head.
When Nitro and I were doing as
I'm sure, as you've probably noticed, I decided to go Reaper, sacrificing one of our tank spots, and I still stand by this choice in some respects. I do think Reaper is a really solid way to deal with like the Winston and Diva in particular, but as you can see, I'm pretty much the only person that's down on the point. And it might have been better if I decided to stay behind the shield, protecting the Bastion and our supports despite the range advantage, or alternatively to have another person or two for the ground fight.
I'll just set it up here so it's got point coverage.
Okay.
Yeah. 3, 4.
I'm gonna scout.
Turret's up. Turret is up full level 2.
They're going far side, guys. Far side.
Far left?
Far
right?
Far right.
Far left. Shit, sorry.
That's okay.
As you can see, there's the Diva flying in with defense matrix. And I did get her down, but again, because I'm pretty much the only one fighting on the point, the flankers quickly took me out.
Winston got me. He's diving, guys. Get the Winston.
We're gonna have somebody on point, guys.
So yeah, our Bastion and Orisa fell right there, and once the turret goes down, pretty much everything else falls down with it. Bastion is super weak to flankers, which accounts for Sombra's effectiveness as well as Tracer's. Tracer can... So yeah, I hope this helps you to understand a little bit more about fighting against Bastion. I think a great deal of it has to do with patience and positioning, as well as choosing the right heroes, and also certainly communicating with one another as a team, knowing when to push and when to pull out, so you can quickly charge the enemy's ults and create an environment that's impossible to recover from. So yeah, let's also not forget that not all matches can be won, and the best you can do is really learn from it. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Wizard Boots, and have fun out there.